Counter-Strike has a problem. It's not the rampant cheating, the terrible in-client matchmaking, or the abysmal tick rate. It's the fact that some of the biggest companies in the world aren't interested in sponsoring your favorite teams. I know that doesn't sound like much of a big deal to you, but behind the scenes, it's an issue that's rocking the CS world, and one that's already caused one of the biggest teams in the space to pack their bags and move on. And if Counter-Strike doesn't change soon, that problem could stunt the game's growth at a crucial time. So, last year, SK Gaming pulled out of Counter-Strike, and they haven't gone back in. What's even weirder is that before they let all their players sign with the Immortals-owned Made in Brazil brand, they had one of the best teams in CS. Before June 2018, SK Gaming had a two-time major winning roster on their payroll. Sure, results started to slip, but they were still one of the best rosters in the world, and they had a legion of Brazilian fans. But in June, 2 years after signing that team, SK Gaming let their contracts lapse and let all the players go to MIBR. And for our purposes, however that team performed afterwards doesn't really matter. SK Gaming, one of the oldest brands in esports, a team with a near constant presence in CS since 2002, all but gave up on the game. They could have picked up another CS team, but instead they took their money and invested in League of Legends, with a new permanent spot in the LEC. According to SK Gaming's managing director, Alexander Mueller, that was because the organization didn't really see a future in Counter-Strike.
We were asking ourselves, will they be this #1 asset as they have been mid-2016 till the end of 2017 again? And at some point we decided against it. We're not saying it's a bad team. We just said that the team is probably, they hit their peak, and it's going to be very tough for them to compete at the highest level again.
But skill and trophies aren't the only reasons SK didn't see their CSGO team as a strong asset going forward. They were also worried about how many sponsors they could sell on Counter-Strike in general.
It's also connected to the new brands that we're working with, especially with the sponsors. Counter-Strike is a more problematic title than some people think, especially when it comes down to the sponsorship market in Central Europe, in Germany. A lot of companies actually have a problem with the game. It's a 16+ title, and we have no problem in working with and around it, but for some partners it is a sacrifice, and they might not want to do it.
As much as it pains me to say it, Counter-Strike is a problematic game. It's a game in which you have to play as terrorists, wielding realistic weaponry in order to kill counter-terrorism specialists and plant a bomb that'll destroy anything from a city block to a nuclear power plant. Look, you and I both know that just because you play a lot of CSGO doesn't mean you're gonna go around and blow up a wagon in a European castle.
Get out of there, it's gonna blow!
But you can't deny that the optics on CSGO are pretty bad, especially considering the current political situation in the US and around the world. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. CSGO just kind of looks bad to a casual observer who sees gun violence on the news every night. And those outside observers have a lot of money. Those sponsors that Mueller mentioned weren't interested in Counter-Strike, well, he didn't name any names, but Deutsche Telekom and Mercedes-Benz, two huge companies, didn't sign on until after the organization left Counter-Strike to get on their League of Legends team's jersey. SK aren't the only team that's had problems in CS either. Over at Splice, team co-founder Marty Strenzewilk says that his organization also left CS due in part to the sponsor issue.
Counter-Strike is challenging to sell to sponsors. It is a first-person shooter, and it's a very explicit one with the terrorism angle to it. I hate that that's the case. It's a wonderful game. I love watching it, but it's the facts of building a sustainable business, right? It's much easier to build a sustainable business around a game like Overwatch or League of Legends or Smite or Rocket League, let's go with the most extreme example, right? Than a game where it is about blowing something up.
Look at FC Schalke. The German soccer team got into esports in 2016, and their managing director Tim Reichert said that CSGO was not something the club was interested in. Flash forward to 2019 and CS is bigger than ever. It's probably the biggest game in the West in terms of viewership, and there's never been a better time to get into the scene. And yet, Reichert says that FC Schalke still wants nothing to do with Counter-Strike.
The idea of Schalke that they won't be part of that kind of business shooter game, especially Counter-Strike, kind of realistic at the end. If you compare that to a lot of political issues right now in our world. So shooters won't be part of Schalke, not now, and I also doubt in the future.
Now, this isn't to say that every single non-endemic company in the world doesn't want to touch CSGO. Astralis has Audi, Team Liquid has Honda, there are plenty of companies out there. And there are even some people out there that think that the ones having trouble with selling CSGO sponsorships are just barking up the wrong tree.
There's market for everything. There are brands interested in first-person shooters. There are a lot of brands. I know them. I speak to them. And there are brands, and those same brands may not be as interested in Hearthstone. And that's just the circle of life.
Now, it is possible that all these teams are going to the wrong people, and you just have to dig a little deeper to find the right sponsor for your CS team. But the problem still stands. There are a limited number of non-endemic sponsors who are interested in Counter-Strike, and that is a problem for the future of the game. CSGO experienced a huge explosion in popularity during 2015, and viewership has been on the rise ever since, even breaking records during the majors. And yet, all the growth opportunities seem to be going to other games right now. Look at League of Legends. Riot franchise in North America, Europe, and China over the last few years, and is now bringing in sponsorships from companies like State Farm, Kia, and MasterCard. The money is going elsewhere, and that's a big deal. CSGO doesn't have these big leagues that dominate the space, which means that team sponsorships are the place that non-endemics can really invest their money. And several team owners have had issues finding interested sponsors. It doesn't sound super exciting, I know, but these sponsors are the ones putting up the money that keeps leagues and tournaments running and players paid. And as player salaries keep going up, non-endemic sponsors are only going to become more important. At the start of this video, I said that Counter-Strike has a problem, and it's this. If something doesn't change about CSGO, the game's esports scene is not going to keep growing as fast as it has been over the last couple of years. Player salaries could start to stagnate, tournaments could dry up, which would lead to viewership going down, and that's what leads to endemic sponsors heading out too. But it's not all doom and gloom. All Counter-Strike needs is a change, and it's a pretty small one. Some people don't think the game needs to change as much as these companies' attitudes do. But others think that it's Counter-Strike that needs a shift. And it doesn't have to be a big one. All you need to do is drop the word terrorist. Call it attack versus defense, or red side versus blue side. It sounds ridiculous, but it works. Go look at Rainbow Six, a game with just as much, if not more, graphic violence and realistic guns as CSGO. But it hand-waves all the multiplayer away by calling it a training simulation.
Can Retro pull it out last time? He was able to stick it! Retro gets the clutch! Ace is down, but there's a Claymore! Oh, Ace is from the grave! How do these things happen in these matches? Don't look down, and just on the range of that Claymore.
That is definitely not a training simulation. But the game is on the rise. And the fact that teams can tell their sponsors that their game doesn't involve teams blowing up a nuclear power plant means a lot.
Bomb has been planted.
But for the diehard CSGO fan out there, changing T and CT to attack and defense is basically sacrilege. I'm sure some of you are up in arms in the comment section already. But if that doesn't change about the game, something has to. Or else Counter-Strike is going to have a lot more than just a sponsor problem.
Thanks for watching. If you want more great content just like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button.